How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Nun Aleph, Daf 151 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, well, yeah, there's some really good Shchiv Mirah stuff today, followed by some really good Shchiv Mirah stuff, but really, really good. And then we're gonna stop with a good halacha at the end about Shchiv Mirah, like a summary of Shchiv Mirah. It's a good daf. Okay, also we've done a bunch already. We're going to start on Daf Kuf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 3 lines before it gets wide. Okay? 3 lines before it gets wide. Ime de Rav Zutre bar Tuvye. Rav Zutre bar Tuvye's mother. Well, actually, the Gosa Bach changed it, I think, to Ksavtinu. Whatever. Lenichsa li Rav Zutra bar Tuvya. So Rav Zutra bar Tuvya's mother gave all of her property that she owns to her son, Rav Zutra bar Tuvya. Debayla and Suve leile Rav Zvid, because she was going to get married to Rav Zvid, and she verbalized this, right? She expressed to Rav Zutra bar Tuvya, her son, that I'm giving you all of my property that I own, because I'm marrying Rav Zvid, and I guess it was a second marriage, and I don't want him to get it. If I marry Rav Zvid, Memele is going to get all my property. I don't want that, so I'm giving it to you. In Siva Vigarsha, okay, they got married and they got divorced, and now she wanted to get her property back from her son, Rav Zutra bar Tuvya, but he didn't want to give it to her. Also, the commander of BavaBasra, she comes to BavaBasra to say, hey, I want to get my stuff back. Omar, to which BavaBasra says, sorry, Mishum Ansuve va Insiva. Look, you gave your property to your son, Rav Zutra bar Tuvya, because you were getting married. And you did get married. If you didn't get married, okay, fine. So maybe you were giving it to him because you were getting married, but you didn't get married, so then then your son doesn't get it. But you gave it to him because you were getting married, and you got married. At that point, it belongs to your son, and it continues to belong to your son. Yeshua says to Rav Abaye, we've seen this several times. Because of Abaye, his father is Abaye, and Abaye, the Rashbam reminds us that also Rabbah, we saw in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, come from the family of Eli the Kohen Gadol in Shiloh. And apparently their family comes from a place called Mulai. And okay, so Huna Ber Yeshua says to Rav Babai, Mishum da also mean Mulai, because you're from the family of Eli, who comes from the place called Mulai. Amrisu Mile Mulyasa. Therefore you say, play on words, Mile Mulyasa, silly things. Okay. Even according to the Mandamar, who says that by Mavrachas, it belongs to the recipient. Mavrachas, as we learned yesterday, was this scenario, right, where somebody is getting married, but they have property, so they give the property to somebody else if they don't want it to go to their husband. So even according to Mandamar, who says that Mavrachas Kani, that in that context, the person who receives the property can keep the property even after divorce. That's only if she gave it to the person stam, but didn't explicitly say that I'm giving it to you because I'm getting married. But in this case, Rav Zutra bar Tuvya's mother was explicit that she's giving him the property because she's getting married. And she doesn't want it to go to her new husband, Rav Zvid. And therefore, so long as they're married, so it belongs to Rav Zutra bar Tuvya. But if they get divorced, then she's, of course, going to be able to get it back. So even according to the Mandamar, who says that a woman who gives away her property before getting married, the recipient can keep it even after divorce. That's only if she gave it to the recipient without being specific that she's giving it because she's getting married. Here she was specific that she's giving it to her son because she's getting married. So from Memele, says Rav Huna bar Yeshua, if they get divorced, she gets the property back. Ime de Rami bar Chama, Rami bar Chama's mother. We've seen where do we see this? In Ksubis? In Ksubis. So over here it says Ba'orta, the Agos V'tziyunim switches around Orta and Safra, which I guess technically I like better, and I think it's also consistent with later things. It just makes it the first gift being in the morning, the second one being in the afternoon, rather than the afternoon and the following morning, I guess. So I'll switch it around, if with your permission. Ime Rami bar Chama's mother B'tzafra Ksavtinu L'nichsa Le Rami bar Chama. So in the morning, I guess she was a Shchivmira, and she said that Rami bar Chama is going to get all my stuff. Be'orta Ksavtinu L'Rav Ukva bar Chama. But in the evening, she said, actually, his brother Rav Ukva bar Chama is going to get all my stuff. Also, Rami bar Chama the Kamid of Sheshes. So then, after she died, Rami bar Chama comes to Rav Sheshes and says, "Well, she said first to me that I was going to get it. Ukmei benichse, right?" And Rav Sheshes says to Rami bar Chama, "Yep, you get the stuff." Also, Rav Ukva bar Chama came to Rav Nachman. Now, his brother Rav Ukva bar Chama came to Rav Nachman. Ukmei benichse, Rav Nachman paskin that Rav Ukva bar Chama gets all the stuff. Also, Rav Sheshes came to Rav Nachman. So Rav Sheshes, who says that Rami bar Chama gets all the stuff, comes to Rav Nachman. Remember, Rami bar Chama was given it first, and Mar Ukva bar Chama, Rav Ukva bar Chama was given all the stuff second. So Rav Sheshes comes to Rav Nachman. Omar lei, my time ukmei mar Rav Ukva bar Chama. Rav Nachman, why? What was that? Rav Nachman, why did you award all the stuff to Rav Ukva bar Chama, who received it second? Imishum dehadra ba. Maybe you're going to say, well, because while she initially gave all the stuff to Rami bar Chama, she changed her mind. What is the... Okay, okay, fine, okay. V'ashchiva, but she died, right? And meaning, if you're going to say that like she changed her mind, well then she changed her mind from both of them, but she died, right? And I guess she didn't change her mind. Wait, 1 second. So then the Rashbam says, if she survived, then it was as though she kind of reneged. Where am I? Okay, meaning if so if she survived, then nobody would get it, right? And it's she gave it to, right? Because the matna shchivmira, if the person dies, so then the gift stands. If the person lives, well then, meaning assuming that they gave away everything, which is a standard matna shchivmira, well then, if they survive, then they get back all their stuff. So if she survived, which is as if she's like kind of retracting, well then nobody would get anything. But that's not the case. She died, and therefore since she dies, the gift stands. And Rav Sheshes asked Rav Nachman that, but Rami bar Chama was awarded it first, and therefore it should go to Rami bar Chama. Omar lei, to which Rav Nachman responds, Hachi Amar Shmuel says the following: Kol she'ilu Amad Choser, anything that if the Shchivmira would survive, they would get back their stuff. For example, in this scenario with Rami bar Chama, Rav Ukva bar Chama, right? Their mother gave away all of her stuff. Therefore, if she would have survived, she would have gotten back all of her stuff. Choser b'matnaso, they can also retract on their gift. So meaning, she gave all of her stuff first to Rami bar Chama, and this was a gift that if she would survive, she would get it back. Right, it's a matna shchivmira. Well, the halacha is that she can also retract the gift and instead award it to his brother, Rav Ukva bar Chama. To which Rav Sheshes asks, but Amor de Amar Shmuel le'atzmo la'achar mi'amar. But I'll suggest, says Rav Sheshes, that maybe when Shmuel says that, he means that she could retract it for herself. She could say, you know what, I don't want you to get it. I'm reverting it back to myself. Okay, so she could do that, but to give it to somebody else, such as to retract it from Rabban Bar Chama to give it to Rav Ukva Bar Chama, would Shmuel say that? On my late, which Rav Nachman says yes, he would. Shmuel explicitly said, Bein la'atzmo, bein la'acher. Whether the Shchivmira retracts the gift to give it back to themselves or to give it to somebody else, the retraction is a retraction. And therefore, Rav Nachman, that's why Rav Nachman says that Rav Ukva Bar Chama should receive all of their mother's stuff. Ime de Rav Amram Chsida, Rav Amram Chsida's mother, Havala Maloga de Shtaroi. She had a whole bunch of documents. Kika Shachva, and when she was dying, Amar Lehave LaAmram Bri, she said they should go to my son Rav Amram, my son Amram. Also Achu the Kamid of Nachman, but then after she died, the brothers came to Rav Nachman because they didn't, right, apparently. Let's just say that this was all of her stuff, were these documents. So she basically gave it all to Rav Amram, and the brothers got nothing. So they all came to Rav Nachman, Amrulei, and they said to Rav Nachman, V'alo Moshach, how could it be that Rav Amram gets all of these documents from our mother? He never did a kinyan meshicha on it. Amrullahu, to which Rav Nachman responds, Divrei Shchivmira ki chsuv v'chimsurin damu. That of course the words of the directives of a Shchivmira are as though they were written down in a document and delivered, and the document given to the recipient. It's as if that happened, right? As we've seen that I don't know if we've seen, but I think the Rashbam maybe explained that the message, right? That the command of a Shchivmira is itself a kinyan. And that alone works. And therefore, when Rav Amram's mother said that Rav Amram gets all of her documents, that's it. He gets all of the documents. Achle de Rav Tuvi bar Rav Masna, Rav Tuvi bar Rav Masna's sister, Ksav Tinu Lenichsa, the Rav Tuvi bar Rav Masna wrote that all of her stuff was going to go to Rav Tuvi bar Rav Masna. Bitzafra, and she wrote that in the morning. The Fanya, but in the evening, also Rav Achdavoy by Rav Masna, Rav Tuvi by Rav Masna's brother, Rav Achdavoy by Rav Masna came, Bachala, and he cried to the sister, Omarla, and he says to her, Hashta Amre, they're going to say, Mar Tzub Merabanan, Umar Lav Tzub Merabanan. All the people are going to say, hey, what happened? The sister gave all of her stuff to Rav Tuvi bar Rav Masna and not to me, Rav Achdavoy bar Rav Masna. They're going to draw a conclusion that it must be that Rav Tuvi bar Masna is a big Talmud Chacham and I am not. So she said, okay, fine, you can have all my stuff. Also the comment of Nachman, they came before Rav Nachman, I guess after she died. Omar Lei, and Rav Nachman says, Shmuel said, Kol Shilu Omar Choser V'Matnas. As we just saw earlier, that the gift of a Shchivmira, that can be reverted, so then they can also be given to somebody else. Okay, excuse me, I'm going to rub my nose quickly. 1 second. Sorry, Mom. Let's go weiter. Alright. Achte de Rav Dimi bar Yosef, Rav Dimi bar Yosef's sister. Havela Piskisa de Fardesa. She had a small little orchard. Kol Emas Davos Chalsha, and whenever she got sick, have a mekanyo le niale. She would be makne this little orchard to Rav Dimi bar Yosef. Vichi kaimo, and when she would survive the illness, havas hajaba, she would then retract and say, actually, I want it back. Zimna chada, one time cholsha, she was sick. Sholchale, and she sends to her brother Rav Dimi bar Yosef, Ta kni, come and be kone my field, my orchard. Sholach, and Rav Dimi bar Yosef said, right, it's the boy who cried wolf, and he says, he sent her, look, lo ba'ina, I don't want, I don't need this. Look, if you're going to call me over to take all your stuff because you're going to die, so die. But don't keep on surviving and then retracting. Yeah, so I'm not going to waste my time. If you want to die, die, but otherwise don't waste my time. So she sends to him, how about this? Come and be kone my orchard, however you want, future-proof it. Be kone it in a way that I will never be able to retract. So Rav Din Bar Yosef says, okay. So he went, Shaira, Vikanu Mina. So he wasn't kone the entire orchard from her. He left a little bit of the orchard for her. And as we learned in our Mishnah, that if a Shchivmira left a bit for themselves, well then the kinyan stands even if they survive. So Rav Din Bar Yosef basically left a little bit for her, so that even if she survives now, he would still get the part of the orchard that he gets. So he went Shira and he left part of it for her. Vikanu Mina, and they made a kinyan. Givaldig. Kikaima, and then she survived once again. Hadraba, she again attempted to retract and say, okay, I want it back now. Asor lekam to Rav Nachman, and this came before Rav Nachman. Shalach lein, Rav Nachman sent to Rav Din Bar Yosef, come to Bezdin, come to court. Lo asa, Rav Din Bar Yosef didn't come. Amar my isi, why should I come? Ha shaira, vikanu mina. Look, she left me part of her orchard. We made a kinyan on it. The halacha is that even if she survives, the gift stands, since I left her some. Shalach le, Rav Nachman sends to Rav Din Bar Yosef, ilo asis, if you don't come to court, mochina lach b'silva delo maba dama, I'm going to excommunicate you. I'm going to hit you with a thorn that doesn't bleed. Meaning the effect of like a pinch without any blood, meaning I'm going to excommunicate you. So then when Rav Dimi came to avoid excommunication, Rav Dimi Bar Yosef came to avoid excommunication, Amarlu, L'saidei, Rav Nachman says to the witnesses, Heichi Ava Maisa, tell me exactly what happened. What did Rav Dimi Bar Yosef's sister say when he came to be kone the orchard minus a little bit that he left for her? Amrulei, they said to Rav Nachman, Amra Hachi, she said the following, Voi dika mesachi itza, Oi gewalt, I am going to die. Amrulu, and Rav Nachman says, well, imkein ava mitzava machmas misa, so clearly then she was only giving the orchard to Rav Din Bar Yosef because she was going to die. Umitzav machmas misa, choser. When somebody says, I'm giving you something because I'm going to die, well then if she survives, she didn't die and she gets it back. And therefore, since in this case, even though he was only kone, he was not kone the entire orchard, he left some for her, but still, she only gave it to him in the first place because she said that she was dying, and therefore, if she survives, she could still retract even on that. Sorry, Rav Dimi Bar Yosef. Givaldik. So the rest of the Amud is some really awesome, important stuff about Shchivmira stuff. The thing is, I'm starting to get a little bit tired. I hope that it shouldn't mess with my brain. Says the Gemara, Itmar was stated, Matnos Shchivmira b'miktzos. So when it comes to a partial matnos Shchivmira, i.e. he doesn't give everything away, he leaves some for himself. The Rabbi said before Rabbi Mishmei the Marzutra Breder of Nachman, in the name of Marzutra Breder of Nachman, the Amar Mishmei the Rav Nachman, who said in the name of Rav Nachman, Harehi kimatnas bari varei kimatnas shchivmira azoi, that a matnas shchivmira b'miktzas, a partial matnas shchivmira, has characteristics of a matnas bari as well as the characteristics of matnas shchivmira. It's like a regular kinyan of a healthy person, of maton of a healthy person, as well as like a shchivmira. Harei matnas bari. What does it mean that it's like the gift of a healthy person? She'im omer eino chozer. In that, if the shchivmira survives, well, the gift stands because it was a partial gift. And it's also like a matnas chivmira, de lo baya kinyan, because it doesn't require a kinyan. Amrlu, Rav Nachman says to them, Amrlu Rava, wait, what? Amrlu Rava. Rava says to his students who just quoted Rav Nachman as saying that a partial matnas chivmira does not require a kinyan. Lavamina l'chu, didn't I say to you, lo tislu buke srike, Rav Nachman, don't hang empty bottles on Rav Nachman. Don't talk shtuyo. Don't say that Rav Nachman said things that he didn't say. Hachi Amar Rav Nachman. This is what Rav Nachman said. Harei kamadnas bari uvaina uvaya kinyan. That a partial matnas chivmira is like a matnas bari, and it requires a kinyan. Just like the gift of a healthy person would require a kinyan for it to be official, a partial matnas chivmira requires a kinyan. So Rava says, Rav Nachman says, that a partial matnas chivmira, like we've been learning about from our Mishnah, that says that when a chivmira gives away everything, but almost everything, but leaves part of it for himself, so we say that even if the chivmira survives, the gift stands, the gift remains. That's so long as there was a kinyan. A partial matnas chivmira requires a kinyan bichlal. If there's no kinyan for a partial matnas chivmira, if the chivmira dies, right? So he says you're getting everything, but I'm keeping stuff for myself, and then he dies, and there was no kinyan, the recipient doesn't get anything, and if he survives, he doesn't get anything. If there's a kinyan, then the exact opposite. If the person dies, the recipient gets, the part of that part of the estate, and if he survives, the gift stands as well because he left some for himself. So a partial matnas chivmira always requires a kinyan. If there's a kinyan, it stands whether the chivmira dies or survives. And if there's no kinyan, so then the matana does not work, regardless of if the chivmira dies or survives. Fine. Eis ve'Rava Rav Nachman, but Rava asks a kasha on Rav Nachman. There's a different girsa that says, what does the different girsa say? Rav Misharsha the Rava, but anyways, we'll just stick with what we have. Eis ve'Rava Rav Nachman, Rava asks Rav Nachman, Shir karka kolshu, our Mishnah says simply that if the chivmira leaves some property for himself, matnoso kayemes, then even if he survives, the gift stands. The implication being, even if there is not a kinyan. My lab, even though there's no kinyan, the gift still stands, right? If the chivmira gave a partial matnas chivmira and he survives, the gift stands. And the Mishnah doesn't say anything about a kinyan. Lo dekanumine, yes, but whatever. The Mishnah is talking about where there was a kinyan. But iachi, if the Mishnah is talking about where there's a kinyan, then ema seifa, then I don't understand the seifa. Lo shir karka kolshu, if the chivmira mamish gave everything away, ein matnoso kayemes, if he survives, then he gets back his gift, right? If he gave everything away but survived, well, then he gets back what he gave away because, clearly he thought he was going to die. If he knew he was going to survive, he wouldn't, right? He would at least left something for himself. If we're talking about where he made a kinyan, though, right? Because if the Reish is talking about where there's a kinyan by a partial matnas chivmira, then the Seifa by a complete matnas chivmira must also be talking about where they made a kinyan. But if they made a kinyan, maye matnoso kayemes. Well, then, if they made a kinyan on it, then why, if he survives, does he get back his estate? He made a kinyan on the gift. Why should he get that back? Why should that go away? It was official. Omar lei, to which Rav Nachman responds to Rava, Hachi Omar Shmuel said the following: Shchivmira shekosav konachosav la'acherim, that if a shchivmira gives away his entire estate to others, afal pi shekonomiyado, even though there was a kinyan on it, Omar, if he survives, choser, he still gets it back biyadua, because obviously, right, it's known, shelo hoya mitzave elamach masmisa, or there's different gears. The Gosbach says kinyan elamach masmisa. If he gave away absolutely everything, clearly it's because he assumed that he was not going to survive, and therefore, even if there was a kinyan on it, it's still, we assume that the fact that he's giving away everything, it's because he assumes he's not going to survive. If he does survive, so then the gift reverts. Eisvei Rav Mishasha the Rava. Rav Mishasha asks Rava, Maisa be'iman shel b'nei Rochel. Okay, there was a Maisa with the mother of b'nei Rochel. Shaisachola, she was sick. She was a shchivmira. V'amar, and she said, Tinosan kvinosi leviti, that my brooch should go to my daughter. Vihu b'shnei masar mana. And it's 1,200 zuzis. Its value is 1,200 zuzis. And the assumption is that it was a partial, or it was matnas shivmira b'miktzas, umeisa, v'kimu chacham dvarya, and she died, and chachamim upheld her gift. And the assumption is that there was no kinyan, because it says, the Rashbam says, kimu chacham dvareha, i.e. entirely based on her words, there was no kinyan. And yet we see that even though it was a partial matna shchivmira, because she gave a brooch to her daughter, that was it, the rest she didn't give. And even though it was a partial matna shchivmira, it stood, it was valid, even without a kinyan. So also mitzav machmas misa, yeah, but that was mitzav machmas misa. She was explicit that I'm giving you the brooch because I'm going to die, and therefore, even though there was no kinyan, because she was clear that she was giving it because she was going to die, so then if she dies, it's a valid, right, the daughter would get the brooch. Eisvei Ravina l'Rava, Ravina asks a kasha to Rava. Ha'omer tnu get le'ishti, if a person says, give a get to my wife, right, Shchivmira says, give a get to my wife, v'shtashikru ze la'abdi, or this emancipation document to my Eved. One second. Okay, fine. Is there any of that? Okay, whatever. Umeis, and he dies. Lo yidnu lachar misa. Don't give it after he dies. Right? Meaning, if he died before the wife received the get, or the Eved received the shtar shichrur, don't give it after he's dead, because ein shtar lachar misa. Okay, tnu mana lefloni, if he says, give a mana, 100 zuzas to so-and-so, v'meis, and he dies before it was given, yidnu lachar misa. You do give it after he dies. And the assumption is it's only 100 zuzas. He had more. It's a partial gift. Umimai delo, okay, one second. Umimai delo kanu minei. And how do we know that it's talking about where there was no kinyan, and still, if he's valid, we give the 100 zuzas, even though there was no kinyan, it's a partial gift. How do we know that there was no kinyan? Dumya de get. Well, because it's in the same, brisa as the get, right? The Reisha talked about a get, and clearly in the Reisha, his wife wasn't there to receive the get, because she was, if she was, then we would have just given it to her. And ma get labar kinyan, and just like they couldn't make a kinyan on the get for her. Af hai nami delo konumine. Here also it's talking about where there was no kinyan for this partial matna shchivmira of the 100 zuzas. Right, so just like somebody couldn't have been kona the get on behalf of the wife, because you can't, right? She clearly wasn't there, otherwise she would have received it herself, and you can't, right? If you can't receive it on her, be makne it for her. So here also we're talking about where, so just like there was no kinyan there by the get, here also there was no kinyan on the 100 zuzas on the partial gift. So why do we say that we would give it after he dies? So well, there also, it's talking about where he was mitzav machmas misa, and he says, because I'm dying, I want you to give the 100 zuzas to the person, so therefore you do it. Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua Amar says, Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua, mitzav machmas misa ba'alma bo yakinin. That says Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua that even mitzav machmas misa also requires a kinin. B'chitanya ane masnaisa, these brises, the reason why we give them, right, in these brises, even the reason why we give these matna shchivmiras after they die is b'mechalik konachasav. It's because he was giving away all of his stuff. because that would be considered therefore a matna shchivmira, and it would be given even after misa v'hilchasa. And this is the halacha. Matna shchivmira b'miktsas. When it comes to a partial matna shchivmira, baya kinyan, it must have a kinyan. V'afagav demeis, and even if he dies, the gift is only valid if there was a kinyan. However, when it comes to somebody who they say that they're giving this gift specifically because they are going to die, lo baya kinyan, it does not require a kinyan, v'udemeis, so long as they actually die. Amad, if they lived, however, and they said that they were given the gift because they're going to die, but they lived, choser v'afagav dekonumine, the gift would revert, even though there was a kinyan, the gift would still revert, since he was clear that he was only giving the gift because that he was going to die, but he survived. Wow. Okay, I made it to the end of the daf. I'm a little tired. The thing is, I'm actually going out in an hour from now to learn with somebody. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully, I'll manage to stay awake. Okay, that was some interesting stuff. There was a bunch of halachas related to shchiv mira. We saw divrei shchiv mira kichsuvim v'chimsurin damu. We learned about the fact, right? We learned a bunch of stuff which essentially led to that final halacha at the end, which was givaldik, that a matna shchiv mira b'miktsas must have a kinyan for it to work at all, regardless of if the shchiv mira lives or dies. When it comes to mitzaveh machmas misa, if he's clear that he's given this gift because he's going to die, well then if he dies, it's a valid gift. If he survives, then it is not a valid gift, even if there was a kinyan. Peace out.